Yo, what's up guys, and welcome back to a new video. Today we're going to have a little chat about Season 4. And it is getting pretty close, and I cannot stress enough how excited I am to finally have a breeze of fresh air, play some new dungeons again, and most importantly of all, get back to our old tier sets. Now, I'm personally very excited about the Season 1 arm set that we're going to be able to play. However, I am not that big of a fan of the way that current Fury plays, so it will be very nice to finally be able to play Anger Managed Fury as well. Now, let's have a little bit of a look in what it is that we're going to be playing in Season 4. As we can see, Season 1's arms actually won by a decent margin, and that means that we're going to have our Mortal Strike and Cleave damage and chance to critically strike increased by 10% for our 2 set, and for our 4 set, our Mortal Strike, Cleave and execute critical strikes increase our damage done and critical strike chance by 5% for 6 seconds. Now, this seems like a pretty easy tier set to understand. It doesn't really revolve around procs or anything, it's just flat out damage buff. Now, what I'm most excited about in this tier set is that we're going to be able to use our Double Blade Storm Cleave build again, that we've been playing in Season 1, and I mean, I'm pretty excited about it. I had a lot of fun in Season 1 playing arms, and it was really strong as well in AoE, so I'm very excited for it. Now, a lot of you might have missed it, but we have had some cleave tuning in one of our last tuning patches. We actually got a buff on cleave. Now, in this tier, it doesn't really matter because we're not really using cleave at all. However, for next season, this can actually mean that cleave is gonna be blasting on the DPS meters, and I'm very excited for it. For the Fury set, on our 2 set, our Rampage damage and critical strike chance is increased by 10%, which is a nice little flat buff which allows us to just simply go back to anger management, which I am very excited about because I really dislike the Annihilator gameplay. However, for our 4 set, Rampage causes our next Bloodthirst to have a 10% increased critical strike chance and deal 25% increased damage and generate 2 additional rage, stacking up to 10 times. Now, the 2 additional rage is kind of a whatever. The 10% increased critical strike chance is very nice, and the 25% increased damage is very nice. Now, if you guys remember what we did in Season 2, we were stacking up rampages until we hit 100% critical strike chance on our Bloodthirst, and we would just dump one enormous Bloodthirst hit in there. But most importantly, we are not forced to play Annihilator again. So we can just go back to our anger management, our Ravager, our Onslaught, spam rampages, have cooldowns on every pack, and it's just gonna feel very nice. Because, in my opinion, we are pretty bursty at the moment, but it's very much focused into one target, and I just don't think that we're currently shining on any aspect. We're not really doing a lot of AoE damage, we're not really doing the most ST damage either, we're just in the middle there, but we don't really have any other way of compensating for not being good on the DPS meters. Now, for the dungeons that we're going into, I actually think that they are going to require quite some AoE. A lot of you guys might remember the Season 1 and Season 2 dungeons that we've played. And dungeons like an Alcatar Academy, a Knockhood Offensive, they just require quite a lot of AoE damage. The same goes with Uldaman, and besides all those facts, there is also some juicy reflex that we can utilize in those dungeons. If you guys remember, in Halls of Infusion, the last boss, huge reflect there, and in Knockhood Offensive, the easy taunt and reflect on the second boss, it's just gonna be very nice to finally play those dungeons again. Now, there is one thing that I'm a little bit afraid of, and that is the way that they have changed Vengeance Demon Hunter. A lot of you guys might remember at the start of the season, they reworked the way that Vengeance Demon Hunter works, and they have basically made them so powerful that no other tank can even get close to the level of a Vengeance Demon Hunter. Now, if we take a look at the representation of this in 25 and up, we see that the vast majority is playing Vengeance Demon Hunter. Almost nobody is playing Guardian Druid, Brewmaster. There are some Blood Decays out there, but also no Prot Warriors. The only 2 that are really being played are Vengeance Demon Hunter and Prot Paladin. Now, I think that it has somewhat to do with the current dungeon rotation that we have, which makes Vengeance Demon Hunter so powerful. Which means that maybe this is going to change in the next season. However, Vengeance Demon Hunters are just able to control a pack for over half a minute, which makes it way too powerful in my opinion compared to all the other tanks. Now I hope that they change the way that this works, otherwise I think we're going to see a bit of a repetition of what we've seen earlier, but instead of a Guardian Druid, then we're gonna see a Vengeance Demon Hunter, which I would very much dislike if that would happen. Now, the other thing is that we've seen a massive amount of mages and shadow priests returning to the top of the leaderboard again. And I think a lot of it has to do with the mage buffs on single target, making them even stronger in single target, with the ignite build on fire mage, just makes them Giga Blast pretty much. Now, the other thing is that they've pretty much reverted all the changes that they've done to Shadow Priest. And combining this with them also going back to their most powerful tier set, I think this could potentially become a bit of a repetition of Exodia, what we've seen in Season 2. Now, I hope that the seasonal tuning is gonna take a little bit of care of this, because otherwise it's going to be a quite boring season. Now, another thing that I do want to mention is that I'm not very happy about the way the legendary worked in this season, and also the legendary from the evokers. The way to obtain the legendary is so much revolved around RNG that it will make or break your season depending on when you get it. For me, it took me 14 weeks after the Race to World First has ended to get the legendary. Now you can imagine how frustrating it is to have a weapon which we are tuned around and just not having it for pretty much the entire season. So I do hope that we're gonna see something similar to what we had in Shadowlands before, where we just get an upgrade token in order to be able to upgrade our current Virulette to the new maximum item level, so that we don't have to farm on like 4 or 5 accounts in order to not break your season. If we take a look at the dungeons upcoming, I do think that there need to be some points pointed out, and that is the way that the affixes interact with some of the dungeons. If you take a look at what we've been able to play in weeks like Sanguine, Bolstering, also even on Raging, it makes these dungeons practically impossible. Now, I do think that is somewhat to do with the dungeons that we've had in our current rotation, like Throne of the Tides, with casters that just keep on casting on repeat, even though you interrupted them just a second ago. Everbloom with the little flowers that are spawning Sanguine or bolster up the bigger mobs, and also Throne of the Tides, where just every pack has one priority mob that has infinitely more HP than the rest, which always get bolstered and kill your tank instantly. It just makes it very unfun. Not even to mention the scavenger pool in Blackrock Hold. I personally have had my fair share of Sanguine pools on that Blackrock Hold, which just ended up in like 200 million Sanguine healing. I don't think that's very healthy for the game. It just makes people not want to play the game. And I really hope that they will change the way that these affixes interact with the dungeons, so that it's not going to become unplayable on certain weeks and Giga Push Week on the next week, because it just makes it pretty much unbearable to be able to play the game in those weeks. Now, I'm very excited about the next season coming up, and I'm very curious to hear what you guys think. I will be playing a lot of PTR from next week on to see how Season 1 Arms does, how Season 2 Fury does in the upcoming rotation, and how the tuning feels like. So if you want to see me play live, you can go to the description down below and click on my Twitch, as I will be streaming most of my PTR adventures. And let me know what you are most excited about for Season 4 and what you would love to see changed. Now that's everything that I got to cover for today. It's a little bit of a different video than that I normally do. I'm trying to kind of experiment around with it. So let me know if you liked it or not, and I will catch you guys in the next one.